by Swami Kriyanandaji called Cherish These. Some of you might have heard this before. A small song, and we have started the singing group, so we think that we will share Swami's other facets with you also this way. I will just repeat the words just so that you know the words. They're beautiful, and then when we will sing, feel free to listen and join in if you know the melody as well. Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth? Selfless friendship, blameless birth, cherish these, naught else has worth. Okay.
Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth, selfless friendship, blameless birth, cherish these, naught else has worth? Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth, selfless friendship, blameless birth, cherish these, naught else has worth?
This passage is from Bhagavad Gita. Live at your divine center. This self is never born, nor does it perish. Once existing, it cannot ever cease to be. It is birthless, eternal, changeless, ever itself. It is not slain when the body is killed. When we read in the scriptures of the soul's divine potential as a child of God, we must understand that this high promise altogether excludes the ego. The ego is a role assumed only temporarily by the soul. It is the soul, as Paramhans Yogananda defined it, attached to the body. To know God, we must abandon the last vestiges of ego consciousness. As Jesus put it, whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall save it and live. The eternal life promised to mankind in the scriptures is that of eternal joy in God. This divine life he cannot have so long as he clings to his little ego, like a drowning man to a straw. To achieve the greater, he must be willing to relinquish the lesser. Such, indeed, is the prerequisite for even normal worldly success. The body undergoes life's normal changes, and yet, inwardly, one remains the same person. One acquires new attributes of personality, yet there remains within him a center of self-awareness that doesn't change with the personality. We define ourselves in terms of appearances, yet on analysis, we see that these definitions are false because fleeting. Like peeling an onion, if one by one we strip away such definitions, what do we have left in the end? Nothing. This is to say, no thing. Nothing solid, nothing definable in any limiting terms. What is left is that self which is never born, which never perishes, which remains forever changeless, forever itself. Weapons cannot destroy it, though they destroy the body. Death cannot destroy it, though it destroy the brain. The self is behind the brain, using it as one uses a computer. The self cannot ever be affected. Know that eternally is what you are. Sri Krishna, in this passage of the Bhagavad Gita, is telling us to live ever more deeply at our divine center within, and not to define ourselves superficially, which is to say, in any outward contest. We are not sinners, we are not the greater for any human virtue. Again and again in the scriptures, we find the admonition to attribute all glory to God and to realize that in Him alone can we have our own glory. Thus, through the Bhagavad Gita, God has spoken to mankind.
Thank you, Serena. It's such a beautiful reading and such a beautiful passage from the Gita. I think Krishna in this passage is reminding us not to be fooled by outer appearances, that we are not just this body, this temporary body on earth, but that we need to live in our center and remain connected to the divine. And when we're connected, we have that awareness of who we truly are, that we are an infinite, eternal soul, evolving through time and space, but that our unchanging reality is that infinity, is our connection to divinity. We are the little bubble, but we're not only the bubble. Our true reality is the sea. I am the bubble, make me the sea. Such a wonderful chant also. We have some Americans here that were recently on a pilgrimage actually they got back last night from Babaji's cave and up in the Raniket area. And just 3 weeks ago, Keshav and I went with another group to Babaji's cave. And when we go to Babaji's cave, we do our best to get into our center and to commune with Divine Mother in nature. We have a nature activity outside. It's called the Trail of Beauty. And in it, we try to, from our own center, connect with nature. And it reminds me of this quote that I have here from John Muir, who was a very famous naturalist in America. And he gives this quote: "The sun shines not on us, but in us. The river flows not past us, but through us. It's so wonderful how everything is our kin. One fancies that a heart like our own must be beating in every crystal, every cell. It's no wonder when you consider that we have the same father and mother." And so also I was thinking of, when we are connecting to nature, it can speak with us. John Washington Carver, who was also a famous inventor, educator, inventor and educator and businessman, I guess it was. He said, if you love anything enough, it will talk to you. If you love anything enough, it will talk to you. And he ended up examining the peanut and basically got into his center and meditated on the peanut and found 300 uses for the peanut. It changed sort of the South during that time. They were going through a hard time. It was actually the end of the 1800s, so there wasn't much economy doing anything there, but it really transformed the South. We're finding 300 different uses for the peanut. And so think of all the wonderful things that can happen when we get to our center and relate to others. The scriptures say that divine experience is center everywhere, circumference nowhere. And Swami Kriyananda tells us in Awakened to Superconsciousness and many other places that when we get into our own center and relate to others, we can also relate to them within their center and have a deep soul-to-soul connection. Oftentimes we are just living on the periphery. We're not living in our center. Maybe perhaps before we start our meditation practice, before we ever came to meditation, we were living more on the edge of our lives, doing what society wanted us to do or our family wanted us to do, but we didn't really know from the inside who we were or why we were here. And so when we can get more and more into our center, and from that center, project our love, our feelings, our gratitude on another, then suddenly we're relating to the other centers and we have a soul-to-soul connection. And when you think of, we're not just these physical beings relating with one another, we can connect to each other in a deep, soulful way. And when we're in our center connecting with others, suddenly we feel ourselves in others. We even feel ourselves in other things and other situations. Swamiji tells the story of the famous Russian ballet star, Novinsky, who had never been on skis before and went to the mountains, and there was a, black diamond ski instructor who said, "Here, watch me go down this slope." And it had really big moguls, and he went down, of course, like a professional. And Novinsky watched him, but felt what that man was doing from the inside. And even though he had never skied before, since he knew how to get into his center and bring his energy to his center, he skied down the slope just as well. And the instructor did not believe that he had never skied before, but he looked at that situation from the inside. Swamiji, in his authoring of songs, of starting Ananda and the community's work, he would always go inside and connect with his guru on the inside and say, "What should I do?" And he would be guided from the inside. When he needed a song on cloisters, on monasteries from medieval times in Italy, he went way into his center and projected himself while he was in that monastery into the vibration of the monks that lived at that time. And he created so many songs of beautiful music exactly with the vibration of that time. When our Guru Yogananda wanted to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, he told Swamiji that he went deep into his own consciousness, into his own center and consciousness, and connected with the consciousness of Vedvyasa. We can do this with every situation that arises in our life, every person that's in our life. We can try to connect on that soul-to-soul level. And because souls have no boundaries, have no limitations, we can connect with manifestation in an infinite number of ways. Again, with things, with people, with animals. So we always come back to our center to do that. And so why do we have spiritual practices? Our spiritual practices are ways to help us remember who we are, to help us get back to center, help us make that connection with the divinity. Maybe the first part of spiritual practices is learning to be aware of the breath. When we first come and learn meditation, it's like, let's be aware of the breath. Because most of the time we're aware when we're speaking, we're aware when we're working, we're aware when we're cooking, when we're walking, but are we aware of the breath? Are we aware that we're breathing? So one of the first things in our meditation practice is sit still and don't be doing any of these other things and pay attention to the breath. That breath that is the source of this physical body of life, it's like we ignore it, we forget it. So then in that awareness of the breath is that stillness. And in that stillness and awareness, we remember that we are actually much more than this physical body. Just like in the affirmation, it said, let's not be aware of things outside. Let's see what we're aware with. We're aware with that consciousness when we're sitting in the stillness. Swamiji tells us that, tells us about the causal world, the astral world, and the physical world. And when he talks about the causal world, he says, when we're on the causal plane, there's hardly any identity that we're away from God. We do have some individuality, but basically we know that we're just a thought of part of all that is, a part of the divine. And that thought could be dissolved just with a gentle puff of smoke, and it could be gone, and we could merge again. We never forget that we're part of all that is, that we're part of the divine in the causal world. And in the astral world, we're much more aware of our individuality, but we still have that awareness that our outer world is a reflection of our inner self. And so Master says, even in the astral world, with our thoughts and our awareness, we can have different fruits grow on the wrong trees. We can have, we can create worlds of color. We can create anything with our inner thoughts, because what's going on inside creates our outer world. And of course, we know if we're evil and unkind in the astral world, that's going to be our experience. If we're loving, we love beauty, we love color, that's going to be our experience, because the outer world is a reflection of what's going on inside. But when we reach this physical plane, when we manifest, when we're born, what's the first thing we do? We start reaching outside of ourselves, for our mother, for our father, and then it keeps going. We're born into this physical plane. And everything that's around us, it's so real. Maya is so strong that we think, oh, I am this body, I am this woman, I have this nationality, this is what I do. And it's a very strong belief. But that's not who we are. And that's what Krishna's reminding us. You're not a body. You can't be burned. You can't drown. You can't be killed. Let's remember. And let's always do our practices so that we can constantly bring back that remembrance day after day and remember who we truly are. And so we remember with the breath, and then Yogananda's teachings also talks about Om. That's one more way, through vibration, communing with Divine Mother in vibration, that we know that we're not this body. I actually can hear the vibration within me. Even if I put my hands down, I can still hear the vibration. I'm part of Divine Mother's vibration. I'm part of all creation. I'm part of all that is. I am not separate. And then, of course, in Kriya, we make our reality the energy that is flowing through our center. For the time that we're doing Kriya, we have all our energy focused on energy flowing through us. What is that energy? What is the quality of that energy? I am not this body. I am this flow of divine energy in my spine. And when we do, in the end, leave our physical bodies, we can't bring anything with us that we've acquired in this earth, but we can bring the quality of energy that is flowing through us. That's what we take with us to the astral world. And that's the consciousness that we take with us. So let's remember and do our practices, because we always want to be reminded that we are a part of all that is, and we are one with each other. We don't want to have superficial relationships from the periphery of myself and the periphery of you. We want to have deep soul connections with each other. And next week, as we all know, we have the spiritual fair coming. And those of us that are serving at the spiritual fair, it's important always that we get into our center first, do our energization meditation before we ever show up, to greet or do registration or work at the booths or teach one of the classes, because it's the quality of the energy that the people who attend the fair are going to remember. They may not remember what we say, or we may not even say it correctly, but they're going to remember the quality of the energy that was flowing through you. And that's what they're going to be able to connect with. And so when we get in our center, they'll be able to also feel us within them. And we can be sharing our Guru's vibration that's flowing through us with each soul coming. So our intention of what we share, how we share, is going to be so much more important than the physical surroundings. Even if we're too crowded or not crowded enough, it's going to be all about the energy and the consciousness that's flowing through us. And I think there was a few other things I was going to say, but I can't remember what they were. We're so grateful to have our American Guru Bhais here on pilgrimage, and they're here just for a day. They leave for Puri tomorrow, and then Calcutta. Puri, where the Mahasamadhi of Mandir of Swami Sri Yukteswar, our Param Guru, is located. And then they'll move on to Calcutta, where Yoganandaji's boyhood home is, and all the places of Yoganandaji's childhood. And so also when you may see during Prasad, you may run into our American and German and Finnish brothers and sisters. Be sure you say hello and welcome them. And so let's just all remember to remain in our center, do our practices, never forget for a moment who we are. Because if we know that we are trying to move beyond this physical plane, be that energy flowing through us, connect with that consciousness of God and divine. It gives us a roadmap from the physical to the astral to the causal, back to the infinite. This is where we're going. This is why we're born. So we maybe wake up and say, what are we doing here? I'm so confused. What should I be doing with my life? Well, we should be remembering who we are, and we should be taking that bridge, taking that walk back to the infinite through the astral and the causal planes, back to the infinite, and live where we are, where our karma has placed us, in the situation that we've been born in. Live in that. Learn the lessons that God has to teach us. But never forget that we are not this individual little bubble just floating on top of the sea. We are the bubble merging with the sea. And that's our true reality. And that's why we were born. God bless you. I'll have our arati now. Please stand.